Hi everyone, welcome. Thank you for coming out tonight. My name is Erin Shea and I'm the head of adult programming here at the library. I'd just like to briefly mention that programs at the library are made possible by our annual Friends of the Library campaign, so thank you so much for your continued support to make events like these available to the community. I also wanted to ask, so I made a New Year's resolution this year to try and find out when people came to programs, if they ever were in the library for the first time because of a program. So just by a show of hands, is anyone visiting the library for the first time tonight? Okay, excellent, thank you. And I also, one of my other New Year's resolutions was to create a comment card for programs, so feel free to take one and fill it out after this evening's event. But now that I've got that out of the way, I would like to introduce our moderator for tonight. Maud Purcell is the founder and executive director of Life Solutions Center in Darien. She is a psychotherapist, coach, columnist, and also a television personality. And she is going to be leading tonight's panel discussion of life transitions, not just surviving them, but thriving through them. So thank you, and join me in welcoming her.
First of all, I'm really impressed that so many of you came out, because I have to tell you, if I weren't speaking tonight, I wouldn't have come out, so thank you. And I think, Erin, is it okay if I say, I'm not sure where she went, but I think this is going to be on the website. Is it okay if I say that?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so for people who couldn't get here. First of all, I want to introduce our timekeeper, Marianne Cardillo. Stand up, Marianne, who is a budding marriage and family therapist. And she's going to be great. So she's gracious enough to keep time so that we don't run over tonight. The Life Solutions Center is a concept that came to me out of the blue one day while I was stuck in a traffic jam coming into work. And good things come out of just about everything, I've found out. And so the good thing about this traffic jam was that I had this idea. And the Life Solutions Center is a consortium of businesses and practices under one roof, under the roof of the Life Solutions Center, designed to treat the whole person. What I found after many years of doing private practice is that most people, when they need help, don't just need to talk to a therapist. They probably don't just need to talk to a divorce attorney if they're going through a transition, or whatever other professional. Usually they need a team of people to help them. If all they do is talk about the problem, nothing really changes. So it occurred to me that it would be so great if someone could pick up the phone, call one place when they're in trouble, and get a team of help. And so the Life Solutions Center has been in existence here in Darien for 4 years, and it has been such a pleasure. We now have 33 or thereabouts professionals operating under one roof, everything from psychotherapists to psychiatrists to nutritionists, career consultant, attorneys, divorce mediator, you name it, we have it. And it's just such a great honor to help people from a variety of vantage points when they're in trouble. The whole topic of transitions is such an apt one for us and for the panel, because when people come in to see any of us, it is most of the time, not always, but most of the time, at a time of life transition. And there's so much to be said about this that we could talk for hours, but we won't. We will be done by 10 of 8, so that there will be time for questions after that. I'd like to first introduce Donna Carlin, who is our career consultant. And Donna has extensive and wide-ranging experience as a senior human resources change management leader and business executive professional. Donna's approach to career counseling is solution-focused and comprehensive. She has a unique ability to understand the placement process in a way that her clients and many of her colleagues cannot. She has years of experience in HR consulting for leading global professional services companies, including leading the HR transformation process for the world's largest hedge fund, Bridgewater Associates, which you may know about. It's right here in Fairfield County. It's in Westport. Please welcome Donna.
Thank you all. Thank you, Maud.
The format is that I will be asking each person 2 questions that really allows them to talk to you about the kind of work they do and how they help people through particular kinds of transitions. So, Donna, my first question for you is this: how is career coaching a valuable tool for people who are reassessing their lives or starting in a new direction?
Sure. Well, when I think about career coaching, I think about it more broadly. I think about coaching as really a change agent. So typically I find people seek out coaches when they're looking to make some kind of change in their life, and it could be a career change. It could be a weight loss program. People go to Weight Watchers to get that coaching and empowerment. And I really see it as helping people help themselves, really working with people to identify what their strengths are, what their passions are, and helping them empower themselves to make those transitions.
And what are some of the common obstacles clients encounter when entering a career transition, and how do you help them overcome these?
Some common obstacles are really within our own. I mean, we talk about the marketplace or the job situation or transitions or I can't do this and outside barriers. But the obstacles traditionally are from what I see, lie within ourselves. And helping clients overcome that internal fear of making a change. So for most of us, change is easy. We want to make the change, but how do we get there? Sometimes looking at if it is a career change, the big picture looks so overwhelming and so daunting. Where do I get started? And helping people just start with, well, where are we? You're here. Let's start here and get yourself out there. And once people get out there and start moving in the process, it gets a lot easier. But the biggest obstacles, that I find are people themselves just holding back and getting stuck because they don't even want to start the process and they're afraid.
One other question. What are the specific ways in which you help people who come in? I know that everybody who comes in is in a different situation, but maybe when do people come in and what are some of the services that you provide?
Yeah, so it has been varied from, as you know, a lot of recent college grads getting out in the market that's very challenging and helping them network and find jobs to women and men out that have been home raising their children and are now going back to work as their children are getting older. To senior executives that either have gone through a layoff transition or are looking to make a career move. And so it isn't a one-size-fits-all. I look at career coaching as really a collaborative partnership. You really need to work with that person to help them identify what their goals are and what their agenda is. So it is a little different for everybody. But the ability to help people realize their potential, to get them out there, to help empower them and help them with their confidence to get out and meet people has really been a big plus in my particular practice. And given that I've been in Fairfield County and in human resources and in the industry, I know what companies are looking for. So I'm able to look at the next step even and help people connect when they're looking for a job. Is that helpful?
Yeah, and if everybody would just hold any questions till the end, hopefully you can hang on to them. That would be great. Next, I'd like to introduce Maurice Segall. Is it okay if they know you're called Mo?
Sure.
Okay. Mo is an experienced attorney mediator who's worked successfully with many couples to reach mutually agreeable resolutions to their divorce, post-divorce, and prenuptial matters. Mo has been practicing law since 1988 and for almost 20 years has concentrated his practice in divorce and family mediation. He's a practitioner member of the Connecticut Council of Divorce Mediation. He is an honors graduate of the University of Delaware and of Albany Law School of Union University, and he is a member of both the Connecticut and New York State bars. Mo is very active in the community in the community, serving on the board of directors of the Fairfield County Bar Foundation and served for many years as chair of the pro bono committee of the Fairfield County Bar Association. That's a mouthful. Too many other boards to mention, but Mo was the first attorney ever to receive the prestigious Liberty Bell Award from the Fairfield County Bar Association, given to one recipient each year for outstanding community service. And I just want to say that although divorce is not a transition that most of us expect, the way we expect our kids, well, we don't even expect our kids to leave home today, right? They may wind up in the basement, but it's a transition that we don't necessarily expect to have happen, so it can be particularly difficult. And that's why I thought it was important that we have Mo here tonight to give you some information about what he does and how it works. So my first question, Mo, is this: how does divorce mediation differ from a traditional litigated divorce?
Well, thank you everybody for coming out in the cold. Mediation is a alternative way of going through a divorce, and it differs from what I call the traditional route. The traditional way of getting a divorce, as we probably all are familiar with or have heard horror stories about, are two lawyers who are representing the parties, or sometimes more than two lawyers, who are really talking to each other, representing the client's interests and spending a lot of the client's money, and really a very adversarial win-lose process. Mediation is a very, very different approach. Instead of using two lawyers to sort of carry the torch for the people, the parties are working together with one person, with a neutral mediator, or primarily with one person, also with Tori, as you'll hear, and with others, but primarily with a neutral mediator to help them reach agreement on their issues. So there was a list out there, and if there weren't enough for anybody, I'm happy to have more copies made. Decisions to be made, mediation. This is a list of everything that has to be decided potentially in a divorce action. And whether you're mediating or using a traditional approach, there's four, what I call buckets of issues that people need to decide if they get divorced potentially. Parenting issues about their children and custody issues, financial issues about their children, how assets and debts get divided, and alimony. And then there are some secondary but important things too. So you have to decide these issues however you go through the process. The approach in mediation is to be goal-oriented. It's not win-lose. It's not to have one party beat the other. It's, okay, you're here, now how can the mediator help the two of them reach fair agreements on these things in a private setting, non-adversarial, that is trying to work toward what the parties are trying to achieve in a much more cost-effective way. So it's a very, very different approach to going through a divorce where the parties, especially if they have children, are going to be talking to each other for a very long time even after the divorce. So my approach is, let's start off this next phase in your life in as cooperative ways we can.
Thanks, Mo. If I mediate, if you mediate, do you still need, or if somebody in the audience mediates, forgive me, I can't read my own handwriting, do they also need their own attorney?
I highly recommend it. It's not required, but I look at attorneys in a mediation process as sort of getting a second opinion from a doctor. Because my role is, although I'm a lawyer and I have been for over 25 years and know this area of the law very well, I'm not advising each party individually as their lawyer, nor am I helping them strategize against the other. I will recommend that they talk to another lawyer to get a basis of knowledge, get some information that they can bring into the mediation. I'll recommend highly in some cases that they use financial planners, as you're going to hear about in a minute, to help them make financial decisions, to use therapists to help them with very important emotional decisions. So it's highly recommended in many cases. Some people choose not to get lawyers, and that's fine. I recommend it.
What would you say, it may be hard to quantify, but in terms of cost, which is obviously something people ask about, how do you think, how much more cost effective is it to do mediation as opposed to the couple getting their own attorney and fighting it out?
I think it's a very, very big benefit of mediation. Mediation can cost, while it's not free, nothing in life is free, but it can cost a fraction of what a litigated divorce can cost. I've heard of people, certainly in Fairfield County, where divorces can cost hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal fees. Mediations don't cost, at least in my experience of doing this almost 20 years, $10,000, less than $10,000, $15,000, $8,000. It's all a function of, and it's really just a function of you're paying one person to do most of the work for you as opposed to paying two lawyers and maybe two therapists and two financial planners and however many other people you need. Very, very cost-effective way of going through this.
Would you also address the long-term difference when people are able to sit at the table together and mediate a divorce, especially in terms of the family dynamic moving forward versus having two attorneys fighting it out?
Sure. I think one of the benefits of mediation is you own your agreement that you're reaching. That the parties the vast majority of people who get divorced, like any other, divorce is a lawsuit. Most litigants in lawsuits settle. Very few actually go to a trial. So the goal is to reach an agreement. And whether you mediate or you use lawyers, chances are you're going to reach an agreement. With mediation, you as the parties, the husband and wife crafting that agreement yourselves, you feel sort of the ownership interest in the decisions that you reach. So I think there's a lot of what's called post-judgment litigation with people who are divorced. They're fighting over things that happen even after the divorce. I think and hope that there's less of that with mediation because you feel sort of more connected to the agreement that you've reached. And I think it helps with the family dynamic. And when I hear clients who say afterwards, listen, we're not married anymore, but we're still friends, we're still talking. I see them together at the football field, sitting together, or maybe not together, but at least they're both there in a sporting event. And at least, we did something right.
And it's better for the kids down the road. Much better. Thanks, Mo.
Thank you.
I'd next like to introduce Victoria Thomas, AKA Tori. Tori is a certified financial analyst, divorce financial analyst, specializing in the economics of divorce. She previously worked for over 20 years on Wall Street, focusing on quantitative analysis. She was director in the equity derivatives department at Deutsche Bank, and prior to that, a vice president at Morgan Stanley, having worked in the mortgage finance, municipal finance, and equity derivative departments. She has gone through a divorce herself and personally understands the emotional and financial stress of this life-altering phenomenon. Tori holds a Bachelor's of Science in Applied Mathematics from Brown University and a Master's of Science in Mathematics from Fairfield University. Please welcome Tori. Tori, my first question for you is this. What services does a divorce financial analyst provide, and how do they differ from the services of an attorney?
Good evening, everybody. Thank you very much for coming out. I'm a divorce financial analyst, as Maud has said, which many of you or some of you may or may not know even exists. And again, having been through a divorce myself, I know how stressful it is and how important it is to focus on the details. So what does someone like myself do as compared to an attorney or other people who are therapists? Basically, some of the tasks that I do involve gathering, preparing, and analyzing the financial data in the case. And that sounds very simplistic, but the first thing that typically a person is given from their attorney or a mediator is what's known as a financial affidavit, and you have to fill it out. It's very lengthy: assets, liabilities, your income, your expenses, and simply organizing that information and coming up with accurate information can be extremely stressful for people. So oftentimes I do that for people. The next step is really to work with the attorneys and the clients and analyze various settlement options. Say, what would things look like if we were to settle in this way? Of course, that's all based on assumptions that are used in terms of returns and so on and so forth, but it helps people start to quantify and get a picture of what is this going to look like down the road? What's it going to look like next year? What are the numbers? What are my taxes going to be? And then another part of the process that I sometimes get involved in is very targeted situations. For example, oftentimes people need to understand what are the premarital assets. What are premarital assets? They're assets that you brought into the marriage prior to getting married. And so that's a sort of forensic type of activity. I'm not technically a forensic accountant. So that's really digging through a lot of details to help the attorneys know what are those numbers. And of course, I'm sure all of you are aware, there's a lot of very, very complicated compensation structures, deferred compensation structures, options, restricted stock, and just organizing that information, understanding it, quantifying it is something that I often help the attorneys and my clients do. So, really I'm here to help people understand the financial issues related to the divorce. I don't deal with the emotional ones, although I know how difficult that can be.
Thank you. When should someone hire a divorce financial analyst, i.e., in what cases are the services of a divorce financial analyst warranted?
That's a good question, because, people often say, well, why should I spend money on, you're spending money on attorneys or mediators, so oftentimes people don't necessarily know, when should I hire someone? And there are various different types of cases that I think about that a divorce financial analyst can be very useful. The first one is a high conflict case, where, there's a lot of emotional tension there. And what I have found is that when you can start to quantify the situation and talk about numbers in a rational way, it diffuses the emotions. Somebody can be saying, well, what the heck, why do you need that amount of money? Here's why, here's what the expenses are, here's what the children cost. So everybody can calm down and kind of really just start to focus on the facts and get rid of some of that negative emotion. And sometimes that means they have to make changes. Say, okay, well, we're not going to send the children to this school or have them do that activity because, we can't afford it. The second type of case where a divorce financial analyst can be helpful is when there is a very sort of tight money issue. Because then I can work with the attorneys, I can work with the mediators, we can run different scenarios and say, okay, this is what it's going to look like if we split things up this way and we set alimony and child support numbers in this way. This is what it's going to look like. There's a terrific tool which is called the Family Law Software, which I subscribe to, which I use. It's absolutely phenomenal. Once you have good data, remember, garbage in, garbage out. So once you've got really good data and you really understand the pieces of the puzzle that you're trying to, separate or divide, that is an excellent tool to use. And sometimes people come in and they're terrified. They don't think, I'm not going to make it. How am I going to do this? You say, well, look, here's how it will work. Or guess what? You change these numbers, and then it will work. Maybe you can take 2 vacations. Maybe you take 1. Maybe you split up the child obligations in a different way. So that's the second one where there's sort of tight money issues and can help sort of run scenarios. So instead of having this horrible fear, what's going to happen? Will I be able to make it? That can help. And finally, the last types of cases that I often get involved in are cases where, for whatever reason, one or the other person is really just not knowledgeable about the finances of their household or financial matters in general. So I will work with them to help them understand what's going on in their particular household. Also, some of the broader, concepts that they may not be familiar with. And sort of help educate them so that, again, the idea is to, in all of these transitions, let's reduce the stress, let's reduce the tension, let's demystify what's going on, and just focus on it and hopefully come to an outcome that, is beneficial to everybody, especially the children. So that's about it. What I want to emphasize, though, what I don't do is I don't give legal advice. That's the attorney's job. And I don't provide investment advice. I will be able to run scenarios and say, under these assumptions, if this, we assume this, then this will happen. But I never recommend or do any kind of investment advisory work.
I just want to say one thing, and that is that divorce, if nothing else, is personal. And I think it's so important that the people who do that kind of work, whether it's a divorce mediator or a divorce financial analyst, have good, I'll call it emotional intelligence, that they can sit with their clients and be kind and warm and caring. Because without that, I think the process becomes absolutely petrifying. And obviously, both of these folks have great interpersonal skills, and I think it makes a huge change in the anxiety level of the clients and also in the outcome of the case. I'd next like to introduce Cynthia Rusk. with Style Solutions. Cynthia and her partner, Erica Jensen, work with us at the Life Solutions Center, and their business is called Style Solutions. Throughout her career in the fashion and retail industry, Cynthia has seen many facets of these businesses. From her experience working in showrooms and department stores to being a merchandise coordinator, manager, sales associate, and buyer, she brings a unique blend of skills to her work with each client. What she loves the most about her work is the one-on-one time spent with her clients, especially when she feels as though she's able to make a significant difference in their lives. Please welcome Cynthia. Sure. Cynthia, at what transition points do people come to you to have their wardrobes redone?
There's various points in time when it really becomes necessary for somebody to take a look at their wardrobe and what choices they're making in their lives. Transition points in general will be a big force in having somebody reevaluate, because your appearance really can make an enormous difference in your self-confidence and how you present yourself. What we try to help with is, in the example after a divorce, you're getting back out there, you're perhaps thinking about dating, or you're getting more active in school situations with your child, and you're in the process of rethinking yourself, redoing yourself, and you've been working on your inside perhaps, whether it's going to see a psychologist, a mediator, etc. And I step in when it's time to work on the outside. You get a lot of self-confidence by taking a look at how you're presenting. When I work in the store, and I often would like to stand behind somebody when they're dressed in something and look at themselves. I see how they're standing there looking at themselves. And it makes a really big difference. During a job transition, touching on what Donna was saying, getting back into the workforce. You haven't been on an interview in a long time. The rules have changed as far as wardrobes in the workforce have gone. Women don't need to wear the little bow ties and full skirts anymore. We relax the rules in certain fields. So just sort of transitioning into maybe a softer look for you instead of feeling like you need to present yourself in such a hard way. Maybe a woman has stayed home raising a child after pregnancy. She doesn't feel the same about her body. We really try to help you take a look at how you're feeling about yourself and how to present the best possible you. There's lots of little tricks that can make you feel really much better about yourself. Anytime you want to feel more confident about how you look, and anytime you have uncertainty, we're there to answer questions and help put things together in a way you might not have thought of. It really, just a half a turn on the dial can give you a little difference in how you look at your wardrobe and how it presents on you, and therefore then how you present to the outside world.
Great. What are the specific services you provide, and how do you help people, both men and women, specifically and then more generally?
Well, specifically, we can arrange to come into your closet, and just as maybe Tori would list things and say, okay, this is what's happening, I would ask you to answer a few questions prior to, say, a closet contract. Do you want to focus on, is this valid for me to wear anymore? Is it stylish? Does it fit me? Et cetera, et cetera. Do you want to get rid of things? Are you trying to find ways to put what you have together so that it makes sense? Are you just needing to say, I have a ton of things and I don't know how to put them together? That really is something that a lot of people will say they go shopping in their closet because they have this jam-full closet, and it's the sort of running cliche, standing in a full closet, I have nothing to wear. Well, you have a lot to wear, but you just need to know how to put it together. Or what's working for you, or what isn't, and why. People get sentimentally attached, I'm guilty of that myself, to certain things, and you haven't worn it in years. Well, why? I'm not sentimental about your closet. I am maybe behind, but not first. It's very easy for me to say, you know what, this at one time was a lovely X, Y, and Z. And right now, it's not doing you any good except taking up space. Donate it, repurpose it, what have you. So, and men have trouble with that as well. You know, there's a lot of wonderful fellas out there that maybe have the same darn sport jacket that they wear at every occasion or every something. And it might be because you don't know how to wear it or how to make the changes, or because you're sentimentally attached. We can also go through what styles and colors are most flattering, suggesting key items of clothing and accessories that you can bring into your wardrobe that'll give something a little lift or a boost. You might just need to get a new necktie if you're a gentleman, or change the shirt color with that old jacket, or for women, it's, you know, of course, a broad range of accessories. So there's a lot of things like that. We work within your personal comfort. My style is not necessarily your style or your style or your style. So to really evaluate the person, assess what you're comfortable with, and find what's right for you. What's right for you might not be right for me, but I'm here to find what works for you.
Sometimes when people come to the Life Solution Center, it's easier for them to start on the outside than on the inside. And it's amazing how, even if they start on the inside, with the right person working with them, they start to open up about their lives and begin to feel more comfortable talking about what's going on. And then they may be ready to see a therapist or one of the other professionals here. But when people are hurting, it's not easy to open up. Next, I would like to introduce Lisa Gardner. Welcome, Lisa.
Thank you.
Lisa is a psychotherapist who works with adults and couples with a wide range of relationship and behavioral health issues using a strengths-based approach. Lisa received her BS from Georgetown University and her MSW from Fordham. She has trained in divorce mediation for the state of Connecticut and served as an adjunct professor of couples therapy in Long Island University's Marriage and Family Therapy School. In her work, Lisa employs an approach called EFT, or Emotionally Focused Therapy, about which I'm sure she'll tell you more.
I was thinking about transitions and how to talk about transitions in general. And I guess I started thinking of how sort of life in general is a series of changes that we have to transition through. Some of these are ones we anticipate and enjoy, and some of them are really difficult and very tragic. But in all these, we're moving from something, on some level, from something that's old and familiar to something that's new and different. So we're developing our skills to go through transitions, no matter what we're doing, whether we're turning 13 or something that's fun and you look forward to, or turning 50, which maybe is not so much fun to look forward to, but nonetheless we learn how to do it. The difficult ones are the ones that really challenge us the most to kind of change and learn something new and grow. But the ones that are also the seemingly more happy ones, maybe having a baby, can also be challenging in ways that we probably don't anticipate before we've actually done it. Having a baby can bring all sorts of new stressors. Dad often doesn't understand what mom and the baby are going through, and mom doesn't understand what dad's going through. And unless there's some way they can connect and talk about those things, it's going to be a really tough transition and could be sowing the seeds for something difficult down the line. So that all those things are part of what we can learn from about. I think it's also complicated by living in this area. I think this is a really high-stress area to live in, as far as sort of financially and what's expected of you and what college you're going to go to or how you're going to function in the world. And I think that kind of compounds the stresses that we're dealing with when we're talking about dealing with transitions, because the more stress you're under, the less well you kind of deal with stress in general. So when it doesn't go well when you're dealing with a transition, it it looks like anxiety or depression or withdrawal or behavioral difficulties, particularly with children, who are not making that adjustment well. So the challenge I see for adults and parents and couples to get through this in the healthiest way possible is to how to develop some kind of sense of stability, of connection with each other and with their families and with their children. That sense of what I think of as we-ness. How are we going to get through this together? How are we going to get through this and be closer? So in my practice, I mean, we're talking a fair amount about divorce this evening. That's a lot of what I see when I see couples, as much as I do what's called emotionally focused therapy. And that's a therapy that's based on attachment theory, which is how we relate to people, how we grow together as people. We're hardwired as people to connect with each other. It's what babies have to do. You need food, shelter, clothing, and love when you're a baby, or you don't thrive. We need that as adults, too. We never outgrow that. So in emotionally focused therapy, what we try to do is help people, help partners develop a more secure sense of connection with each other. And we have a very specific way that we work with that. It's really terrific. So the couples who come in are often contemplating divorce or thinking of doing it together, or one of them or the other one actually wants to exit the marriage and they want to use therapy for that. Hopefully they're willing to work on it and look at that. So divorce or contemplation of divorce is one of the major reasons I see people. I also see parents a lot for parenting issues, particularly if they have a child who's having difficulty going through some transition. Often it is elementary to middle school to high school. That can be a tough time for a child to make that transition to the new age and the new academic expectations. So parents will come in to me with differences over that. Or they'll come in over empty nesting and the implications of that for them as a couple and where they're going to end up. Or if there's been a stay-at-home parent, where that stay-at-home parent is going to be and how they're going to adjust to the new situation when their children are gone. That fourth one is sort of loss in general, of the death of someone that they love, or a severe illness, or even something like a layoff from a job when there's tremendous anxiety because someone has lost their job. And when they do come in with all of these things, often what the complaint is that their communication is not working. They're feeling they're not able to communicate. They're feeling that the other person doesn't understand what they're going through, and the other person is concerned with them. And what this results in is a feeling of very much being disconnected from each other. And it's actually a pretty common thing to have happen when a transition like this hasn't been negotiated in as healthy a way as it could. So part of what I hope they remember, and that anybody remembers, that a transition is a temporary situation. It will pass. So it's just getting from this point to that point, and how you do that, maintaining that sense of connection that a lot of these couples have lost. Which is what makes it the opportunity for growth. And then what I hope parents will do and couples will do when they come to my office is to find that connection with each other to be able to make it through whatever transition they have to, with that sense of working together.
Thank you, Lisa. There is someone who couldn't join us tonight, and I think it's important that I just introduce her. She has no voice, which happens to be a particular problem in this kind of a forum. So, but her service is very important, and I think you should know about it. Her name is Judy Stoddard, and she is a psychotherapist, but she has specialized in a particular area, which is very important. After a career in the private sector, Judy returned to graduate school, and for many years now has been a therapist specializing in seniors and adults. She meets with seniors, their children, and their families, either at the Life Solutions Center or actually in their homes. Judy holds a Master's of Social Work from Fordham and a postgraduate certification in gerontology from Hunter College and a bachelor's from Iona College. She is a member of both the National Association of Social Workers and the Connecticut Geriatric Society and Alzheimer's Association. And since she's not here, I'll just say a few words about this. I know in my practice, and I'm sure it's the same with many of you, there are an increasing number of baby boomers and people getting older, and we all live longer, which is wonderful, but it's really brought on a whole new area of practice and of work. I have people in my office every day who have an elderly parent who becomes ill. They don't know what to do with and for that person, where they should live. Maybe the individual, along with their illness, has had a personality change and the family is having difficulty dealing with that. Or maybe the elderly person themselves is having some problems with transitions, recognizing that they're not capable of doing some of the things that they used to do. They're facing the aging processes, unfortunately, we all do. So Judy is great because she will actually go into the home, and as people age, obviously, sometimes it's hard to get them into the office, and her service is just very, very important. I'd like to introduce also two people in the office who aren't on the panel. I wish I could have everybody from the Life Solutions Center on it, but just so you know, Joanne Labs, Joanne, just stand up for a second, is a hairstylist and makeup artist, which is also extremely important. And in the back is Avril Sweeney, who's a professional and personal organizer, and everybody loves having her come to their home and work with them. So I'd love to entertain questions for any of the panelists. Just start anywhere, don't be shy.
I was wondering what the financial affidavit was that you mentioned?
A financial affidavit is a form that you have to fill out as part of the legal procedure obtaining a divorce. And in very simple terms, you list what your assets are, so that would be bank accounts, house, cars, jewelry, basically what's the pie that we have to divide up. There are very specific technical things about it, but in general terms, it's listing what your assets are, then what are your liabilities, your credit card debt, debt on the house, other forms of debt, college loans, whatever types of debts you have, and then you list your income. So that would be obviously the source of income for the family. Again, there are technical issues on how you prepare it, but conceptually, that's what you're doing. And then the fourth piece is what are your expenses? And that can, as simple as it sounds, that can be extremely time consuming. I went through a divorce myself. I had no idea what you spend on dog food every month. Who knows? What do you spend on your yard every year? And again, what I do is I want to look at a year of history, and you take those annual numbers and divide by 12, and that's what, on average, you're spending per month on various items. And then you start to develop, you start to have a sense of, these are my expenses, and that helps the attorneys and everyone in the process start to figure out, well, what do I need then to live on? It helps to determine what's the need. So it's sort of the balance sheet, if you will, of your family.
It's an important document in the divorce case. Both the husband and the wife must file them. It's a snapshot of exactly what Tori said, those income, expenses, liabilities, and assets. And when you give an agreement to the court to get divorced, the judge compares the agreement to these affidavits to decide if the terms of the agreement are fair.
Yes.
I have questions for you. So, do you work well with the attorneys? Because it's been my experience going through divorce, and I like your services. I don't necessarily trust the women in the office. It feels like they're just throwing numbers. They don't feel comfortable. They don't feel correct. They don't feel stable. So my question to you is, do you work well has it been your experience that you work well with the attorneys and the people in their office? Are you accepted well when you're hired by the client? Are you accepted well by the attorney and the other people?
It's a very, very excellent question. Some attorneys are very open and grateful for the help and the input. And I really emphasize with my clients, I want to help you, the client. I want to help the attorneys understand the numbers better. It's a ton of work to come up with even a financial affidavit and start to get your arms around what is it we're dealing with here. So I'm very happy to do all of that grunt work. And yes, many attorneys are, very open to that. I wish more attorneys knew about my services and understood that I'm here to help them. I'm here to help them look smart. I'm here to help them understand the numbers better. I think one of the difficulties with the work or the function of a divorce financial analyst is sometimes the attorneys may feel I'm trying to practice law and tell them what the settlement should be. And I never, ever, ever do that. I just want to help them understand things better. But it's a good point. I wish the attorneys were, more open sometimes to the services. But a lot of them are, and they understand the benefit.
Another question for you. Do you happen, post-divorce, which was for me a long time ago, do you have a computer software that you recommend in terms of once you are, sort of handling your own finances, sort of post the whole settlement or whatever? Is there anything that you feel is easy to use and
In terms of budgeting, is that what you're talking about?
in terms of budgeting and just, your whole financial...
Well, again, I do not do financial planning, so I will not sit down and say, you should own stock or bonds or have this much, or do this or that with your retirement assets. So that's another area of expertise. Those are people who really, work on the financial planning and investment advisory work. So I do not do that, but, I do help people sometimes with QuickBooks and things like that help them organize their information and understand their budget.
Yes.
You just say I'm a financial advisor, and if you do it on your own and you're not on a Mac, I think Quicken is excellent. And Mint is a great planning program as well. Both really user-friendly.
Thank you.
How do people access people in the Life Solutions Center? Is it a single organization, or is it basically an umbrella thing that has individual practices?
It's a great question. Thank you for asking, because it's not always easy to explain, and I don't want to run on too long about it, so you've just given me the opportunity to do that. It's just an umbrella organization. Everybody at the Life Solutions Center has their own business or practice, but people can access us through one main number. We didn't bring marketing materials. I'm not sure that that's what we're supposed to do here, but our number is 203-636-0080. I'm sure we each have business cards with us. But the idea is that when somebody has the nerve to pick up the phone and make that one initial phone call, it's so nice if they don't have to go seek out someone somewhere else, especially when they're going through a painful or difficult transition. They make that one call and they talk to our business manager, maybe initially, about our services. If they need to discuss things in a little more depth, I would usually be the person they would speak to. And they might be coming in to see me for an initial visit, and I might assess what's going on and then say, I think you should see Donna Carlin, our career consultant, or Cynthia Rusk, our wardrobe consultant. That said, people can access the Life Solutions Center through any of the professionals here and any of the professionals at the Life Solutions Center. And the nice thing is that if they give us permission to speak with one another, then we really can act as a team for them and say, what else? What else could we be doing for Maude? How else could we help her? How do you think she's doing? Do you see her making progress? So it's very much a collaborative effort, even though we're individual businesses. Does that answer your question?
What's the phone number?
203-636-0080. And our website is www.thelifesolutioncenter.net, and that's a mouthful.
My question is for the career coach. So let's say that you've been out of the workforce, raising your kids, so a long time, a number of years. How would you indicate that on a resume or in a cover letter that even though you've been raising the kids, you're worth hiring because you're used to juggling a million things?
Right. So that's a great question, and so I have a lot of people come to me in that situation. As their kids are getting older, they want to go back to the workforce, they have a college degree, they worked before they had children, and I've been out for 10 years now, how do I get back in? I have no skills, I can't do anything. And again, it's not one size fits all, but if you look back at what, and it could be the women or the men that are home, right? Because I work with both, that there's so many things that they've been doing that can translate into corporate America, if that's what they're looking to get back into. So the charity events or the fundraising or the PTA or other organizations that they're working with. And so there's a lot of ways to build a resume based on what you've been doing. In addition, it's getting out there and networking, because those skills never go away. Because you were smart and worked 10 years ago doesn't mean you can't do it again. And so it's getting that confidence again. I know I turned off my getting that confidence again to get back out there. Because one of the challenging things is you haven't been in that environment in 10, so I'm picking 10 years. But you were there once, and so it's flexing that muscle that maybe you haven't flexed in a long time, but it's still there. And so helping people recognize that they still have the true talents and presenting that in the right fashion and networking. Does that help you? Does that help?
Yes.
Do you have a specific test or do I know they're like personality tests or
Mm-hmm.
sense that what specific ways that you would help someone steer someone?
That's a good question, and I can't believe I didn't mention this earlier one.
That's all right.
One and I worked on this together, but so I am certified. I'm actually certified in a few different assessment tools, Myers-Briggs, currently using predictive index, which I used years ago when I was in private equity. I'm going through another assessment program. I'm currently enrolled in the Columbia University Executive Coaching Training Program to get my master's, and so I'm looking at other assessments. But the one that I really found very useful is predictive index, and I love it because it takes 10 minutes for a client to take, and it tells us so much about them. And I used this, my first job as head of HR, and I don't want to say how many years ago that was, 20 years ago, and out of, I say 100 management folks and CEOs and high-level people, every test was right on, and I just did this with a group I'm working with now, and everyone said, I can't believe how accurate that was. So that really helps me as a baseline to help people maybe recognize strengths, recognize weaknesses and opportunities, and what environments they might work better in, what environments might not be the best for them. So yes, I use the tools. It's helpful.
I'm not looking for work because I've been retired since 1996. But I'm just curious, what do you tell people today, especially middle-aged people, who have like 3 or 4 college degrees, graduate summa cum laude, they're merit scholars, they have a 4.0, and they make a certain amount of money, and then employers say, well, you're overqualified. What do you tell those people?
So I don't know that so as a coach, right, so it's not my job to tell anyone anything, right, or give an answer. It's really to coach them to help them find the answers and help them find out, explore what are their goals, what are they really looking to achieve. Do you want to go back into corporate America and do that same job? Or are you retired now and you want to do something different? And I have to say, I've seen, some scenarios that you're describing of people going back and networking with colleagues that they've worked with in the past, and getting jobs or going out and consulting, and they're highly sought after because of their experience. So I've seen people really have some good luck with going back, but again, it's all about what that person's looking to do.
Well, I've written a number of articles about it since the 1990s, and I've discovered that with each passing decade, it's only gotten progressively worse. And I hear about networking all the time, and I hear about we're going to train, middle-aged people, we're going to transition them from one career to another career. And the bottom line is it's very difficult in middle age to actually transfer from one career to another career. I mean, that's been my experience, and it's been the experience of other people that I know who are my age. I mean, I don't know what the answer is. But like I said, I hear an awful lot about networking. It seems to be a buzzword. And retraining is another buzzword. And I've heard this for like 30, 40 years.
I'd like to just jump in for a minute because I actually have someone who Donna's helping right now who comes to see me who fits a lot of your descriptors earlier. Is middle age, well, it depends on what you call middle age. It's creeping up. I think he's probably beyond what we technically think of as middle age. And I really did not think that Donna would be able to help him. Well, he came in to see me the other day, and he has a job offer, and he's not sure if he wants it. So I don't know that she can always work miracles, but it's funny you bring that up because I was very concerned that he was anxious to get back into the workforce, and I'm sitting there thinking, oh my goodness, he's got some health issues. And
can I ask you how old he is?
I think 50.
Oh, so he's young.
You think? Yeah, I think it's young. Good. Yeah.
I mean, 50 is nothing. I've been there. I've done that.
Good. Well, you know what? If this is about you, you don't look any older than 50.
I don't have anything to do with corporate America again.
Okay.
Yeah.
Believe me, I have no intention of going back.
That's a good point. And this was a gentleman actually that had his own career for a long time, was very successful.
Yeah.
And he didn't want that again.
Yeah.
He wanted to go back into research. He wanted one specific job, and he was so afraid of what he called the elephant in the room. But I'm 50 X and I've made this much, and I don't really need to make that much now.
Right.
But I want to go out and be productive. And so we looked at how he marketed himself in that fashion, and it was really just a week ago, and he said, I don't think I'm ready to go out and interview. I said, well, why not? Well, what if I stumble and fail? I said, so? He said, well, then I might not get the job. I said, okay, and then what might happen? Well, I might learn from this interview. And sure enough, he went on the interview, and they called him back 3 times, and he got the offer. And it was the way he connected himself. When I talk about networking, I know that's very broad, but it's the way he contacted people in the organization that knew him through other people that said, hey, let's give this guy a chance, let's talk to him. And they saw the value that he brought to the table. So that's a really great example, Mom. Thank you for remembering what I do.
Yeah. No, it's true. And so if you write any more articles on career change, you know who to talk to.
Middle-aged workers being left out of U.S. workforce. I wrote another one called Baby Boomers Returning to the Nest. I wrote another one called Connecticut. I don't remember the title. But anyway, I wrote those back in the 1990s. And I see today even recent articles that mimic the articles I wrote. In fact, it's only been exacerbated. It's gotten so much worse. And they said, it was a new article in Stanford Advocate recently, and it said the new 65 is now 50. I don't know whether you saw the article. It was about, I guess, a week or two ago.
Yeah.
And I read that article, and it's like, that's the article I wrote back in the 1990s. So I don't know. I don't really care. It doesn't affect me, but I do feel bad for people who find themselves approaching 50 today, and they don't really know what to do. All my brothers retired. We all retired early. I retired when I was 48, and my younger brother retired in his early 50s, and so did my older brother. And we all went out there, and they said, you're overqualified, which is the favorite euphemism of corporate America. In translation, it means you're too old. They can't tell you that, but everybody knows what it means. So I don't mean to sound like a downer, but that's the reality of what's going on out there today.
So all people can do is try to find whatever silver lining they can And one of my recent columns was about college students getting out of school, and apparently only 50% of them are able to get jobs. What that does, though, is I think it forces kids to really figure out, really think about what do I want to do, and think outside of the box and hone in on something. So, Donna, I don't know what you think, but I think all you can do is take a bad situation and look for an edge or a silver lining. It may not always be there, but...
are considering entrepreneurship today.
Right.
Yeah. So that's probably...
It's an opportunity. I guess I've been head of HR and I see it differently, and I just started a new career and I'm 52.
Well, you're young, you know.
But, and so, call me crazy. But it's, it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity whether you just got out of school and never worked before and you're scared to death. Right. It's an opportunity if you're 52 or 62 and you want to try something different. But it's finding that resource within you, because we all generally have the resources and creativity within ourselves. And whether that means you're going to be an entrepreneur or go out on your own, or you're going to find that consultant role in corporate America, or you're going to find the job as a market analyst because you don't want to run your own company anymore. It's there. And I've been watching it the last 3 years as I help people. When everyone says to me, it's impossible.
I became a writer. I went back and got 2 graduate degrees.
So there you go.
I got an MFA in English writing and creative writing.
Right.
I used to be in corporate marketing. I have no desire to go back.
Of course, so there you are. You're an example of success at any age.
Other questions?
Well, I have a question. It's funny you said that Judy couldn't be here tonight, so I have a couple people that couldn't be here tonight. The questions were really for her, and it's something I'm going through with my mother. One of the basic ones people want to know, are her services covered by like Medicare, do you know?
I think so.
Yeah. Okay, and she meets people at the Life Solution Center, siblings and people who want to gather and say, how do we deal with this and what is our role or what should our role be?
Absolutely. She meets with every combination you can think of, the parent and their children, the parent and the parent's siblings, the grandchildren. Absolutely. She'll do it at the Life Solution Center or she'll go to their home.
Which is really great.
Isn't that terrific?
I have found from, like I said, people that I've talked to and myself, with older people, it's so difficult because sometimes you're not getting them out of the home, or you have other people that are feeling, I don't know what they might be feeling, resistant to going into a therapy session, but meeting at the home seems really, really great that she does.
Doesn't it?
I'm glad to know that.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's a problem that we all either have already or will have. It's part of life. It's one of those transitions that although we can't know exactly how it will play itself out, how do I say this? We all get a little closer to the checkout counter, and so do our parents, and so it's good to know there are services out there that can make it a little bit easier.
I also just have to put a little plug in for an organization in town called At Home in Darien.
Yes.
And, your parents can call At Home in Darien and they'll send a driver over to pick her up, to bring her to an appointment at the Life Solution Center or anywhere, and then pick her up and bring her home at the end of the day. And I think that they give a recommended donation, but it's really a free ride. I'm a board member of the organization, so I
That's
always
great.
step in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's terrific. That's really good to know about. Other questions?
Could I just bring up a quick point?
Yes.
That, to sort of what Joanne was saying. The appointment hours, if somebody doesn't want Style Solutions to come to the house, to the closet, etc., I think an office appointment can be made at Life Solution, and certain key elements of wardrobe or questions, if you want to take pictures or what have you, we could meet with somebody at your facility if that is more comfortable for somebody. So I had to mention.
Thank you. Yes, everybody here is very flexible and creative. People don't always, it's not always easy to get to an office or whatever. So we try to reach out and do whatever we can to help.